Hey everyone, so I thought I would check in with all of you and give you some updates because it's been a while since we've had updates, and I personally have felt a little busier or a little sidetracked more than usual because over the last couple of years I've just been bouncing back and forth between Brooklyn, where I am now, and upstate New York and the Finger Lakes of New York. So I know some of you already know this already, but for those of you who didn't get the memo, about 2 years ago on this channel, I gave an update that a group of friends and I actually went in collectively on some land together in upstate New York. It's something basically that was on our mind for 4 years. And we came together and we decided to collectively do a co-living community together, which has just been, honestly, it's changed my life for the better. It's just really marvelous to be able to do something together with a bunch of people that you really like, and it just feels so liberating. It feels so wonderful. And I feel grateful because I have this place here in Brooklyn, and it's allowed me to kind of move back and forth a little bit more slowly than typically maybe I would. And for those of you who also don't know this, I know some of you have already come over to the other channel that we do, but about 2 years ago, we started another YouTube channel. I know there's some people who don't even know that, and that's fine too. It's just, you know, if you didn't watch that one video, you probably wouldn't know that. But we started another channel called Flock Finger Lakes, and that has been amazing because it's been documenting our co-living journey, but also features a lot of amazing folks in the area. So a number of folks who have skills and crafts and, you know, things that we've kind of lost along the way as a civilization, as a human society, as people, you know, especially as we move to different trades, like, you know, video producing and video editing. So that's been really marvelous because it's really cemented us in the community and has allowed us to actually meet some more interesting folks. But I mention this because my attention is divided between these two channels, and we still aim to produce 2 to sometimes 4 long form videos per week essentially, which is kind of intense. You know, now it's not just Plant One On Me, it's also the Flock channel. And with Plant One On Me, still going to continue to focus on indoor plants or houseplant home tours or botanical tours as it relates to mainly more tropical plants, which are the types of plants that you would normally find inside a home, especially in areas that are cold, like in the Northern Hemisphere, like we are here. So all that kind of good stuff, I'm really focusing for Plant One On Me. For Flock, we do quite a bit of different things, even though there's a bit of overlap. There's definitely a lot of gardening, there's a lot of horticulture, there's a lot of focus on permaculture and agroforestry, homesteading, lost art, skill, craft, that kind of stuff. So if that interests you, I really do encourage you to check out what we're doing at Flock and what we're building at Flock. We've already produced over probably 130 videos already, so it's quite a lot over there. So if you wanted to try to catch up on that, then you could go and do that. And of course, you know, Plant One On Me, even though we're gonna be doing interior plants at Flock, that will probably end up being on Plant One On Me as opposed to being on Flock. So there is going to be some kind of weird, kind of gray area crossover. It just so happens that we haven't really put emphasis on indoor plants at Flock, largely because we're doing a crap ton of renovation there. And initially, I wanted to create a greenhouse there so that I could actually bring a lot of my houseplants up to Flock right away and not have to worry about coming back and forth and watering my plants and caring for my plants and doing all that kind of stuff. That kind of got shelved or pushed back into a different degree of what am I trying to say? Basically, it got pushed down the line and got pushed to the back burner. And part of the reason for that is we don't even have enough bedrooms for all of us to be there all the time simultaneously. So we really are focusing on renovating that space. And what's interesting, I don't know if I just glossed this over, but because I assumed a number of people have watched that video from 2 years ago. The crazy thing is that the place that we got, the 90 acres or so, some of that acreage was actually used as a container nursery. So it was a plant nursery. It was kind of amazing. And also kind of a struggle in the same way, because yes, it was a plant nursery. It was a container nursery, so it was a lot of outdoor plants. It wasn't like really indoor plants. And we did clean up quite a bit of the nursery. We ended up taking, the owners prior to that took out 64 tons of trash, if you could believe it. And then we ended up taking out another 32 tons of trash. So that's almost close to 100 tons of trash. It was unbelievable. Nurseries are definitely not necessarily the most environmentally friendly places. You know, you have all those plastic containers and you have plant tags. There was like rat poison, there was tile drainage, there was metal pins and spikes and things like that, geotextile material. There was like just a ton of work to actually clean that out. But the beauty of it is that now that it's cleaned out, we actually ended up planting a native meadow, and there's like a lot of things that I could like experiment with on the land there. That's really kept me busy. You know, I feel like the projects that I'm able to do and the projects that I'm able to dream up and execute upon has increased exponentially, because I'm not just working within the confines of these four walls within Brooklyn. So even though, you know, tending to plants indoors is a heck of a lot of work, as many of you already know, now there's an opportunity to work outside. And so I think that's just been great. It's really piqued my curiosity. It's allowed me to really come to life and be my fullest self, and to be able to execute and plan on ideas that I've had for quite some time, and allow me to really reconnect to the land where I kind of grew up, because I only grew up about an hour from there. All my other partners are from different parts of the world and different countries. So, you know, in many ways, I feel like I'm benefiting. I don't know if I'm benefiting the most, but it just feels like more home to me. I haven't really checked in with my partner to say like, how much does this feel like home to you? But there's this like, there's this recognition and this familiarity, I guess, with the landscape there, because I didn't grow up too far away from the area. So in a way, I feel like I'm coming home. And I also went to school in the area as well. Went to university in the area. So that kind of feels super cool to me. So a lot of fun. And I've had a question, I think it was on, I can't remember if it was on Plant One On Me Now on a video or a flock video, but somebody had asked me the question, well, what do you like more, the indoor or the outdoor plants? And it's really funny, that question, because I kind of feel like it like leads you into a certain direction. I had to really think about it, because I don't really place an emphasis on segregating the indoor plants from the outdoor plants. I see it on a continuum. Like it's just how I live my life, you know, whether the plants are indoors or whether it's outdoors. I wake up in the morning, these are my rituals, these are my routines. And I cannot stress this enough, and I've said this before in my book, How to Make a Plant Love You. I've said it on Plant One On Me. I probably said it on Flock. I probably say it to people who I talk to, but like, your environment really affects, it shapes your life. So if you're able to create the environment that you want to live in, a healthy, supportive, inspirational environment, whether it's indoors or whether it's out, whether it's with the people that you hang out with, whether it's the information or the content that you read or view or consume, whether it's the food that you eat, whether it's the clients that you take on, whatever the case, that is your environment. And if you're fostering an unhealthy environment or unhealthy conversations or unhealthy people, like kind of that kind of toxicity, then that's going to manifest into your life. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, you know, and all that builds up over time. So, you know, if you have it, you know, for here and there, like some toxic nature here and there, okay, it's not going to be a big deal. But I find this, like, it totally affects me. So, like, for instance, I was just walking out the other day, and I'm generally a pretty happy person. You know, I usually walk around with a smile on my face that could get me in trouble sometimes, because people are like, she's either thinking about something funny or like, you know, she's smiling at me, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I'm generally a happy person. And, you know, in the morning I wake up, I tend to my plants, I walk out, I go take care of the chickens, I take care of my birds here inside, all that other kind of stuff. So it generally makes me happy. But I was walking outside the other day in Brooklyn, and lo and behold, there's these two people walking dogs. I don't know what happened, but they were just in heated argument. They were calling each other names. They were cursing at each other. I mean, it was just like full on. It was Monday morning, okay? Like, I get it, Mondays, you know. But I don't know what happened, but they were screaming down the streets from one another. And to me, I suck that up like a sponge. It's like so toxic. You know, come on, guys. You know, you don't live forever. Life is short. You know, just let bygones be bygones. I cannot tell you what happened to them because I wasn't privy to that, you know, what happened 5 minutes earlier, or if they were yelling at each other for like 25 minutes. I have no idea. It just happened that I intersected with them on their path. And I tried to not let it bother me. I just like tried to let it go through me and out, and then just walk home and get into, again, a calm environment. So going back to that person's question of outdoor versus indoor plants, well, you know, again, I just see it on a continuum. It's just how I live my life, and I am really looking forward to being able to get my plants to flock when I'm actually there and living there, you know, full time, because right now I'm not living there. We're too busy like renovating. We're putting in a ton of gardens. We're doing a lot of landscaping. We're like cleaning up the place, that kind of stuff. So it's like the pre-prep. It's the preparation for stuff. And here I haven't been able to bring up all my plants, but what I'm starting to do and what I realized and what I've kind of come to terms with is that I'm going to have to let go of some plants, or I'm just going to have to look at it from a standpoint of cutting back. Like, I don't really love to prune or cut my plants back as much. I like how they go a little wild in most cases, not all the cases. I do prune plants back. I mean, I don't want to say that as like a general term, but sometimes I don't mind when they are actually vining all over the place. And I don't always have places to take cuttings and propagate them, so I tend not to do that. But I started to realize, you know, especially as I started to move more stuff, I just had some movers come and actually take a bunch of my larger items from the house here. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to cut plants, and it's much easier sticking them in little vials, taking some of my succulents, many of them that, you know, turn leggy no matter what light you give them. So you just like take their little leaflets. I've started to clean out some of my containers, and a lot of those containers, I don't have a lot of plastic containers in here. Plastic is quite easy to travel with, so that's another thing if you're kind of traveling all the time, or if you're bouncing around from lease to lease or anything along those lines, you might want to actually consider plastic planters until you're in one place. But I have a lot of beautiful like ceramic, terracotta planters, things along those lines. So I've basically been washing them out. I've been putting paper around them, or like extra bubble wrap if I've like kind of upcycled it from other packaging, that kind of stuff. And I've just been basically putting them into containers, and I shipped, I don't know, like 6 or 7 containers up there of planters, composting all of the potting medium, taking cuttings, wrapping them, putting them in small glass jars here, all this kind of stuff. So just kind of downsizing. I don't want to cut all my plants because there's some that are so big and beautiful that I will have to find a way to wrap those and take them up. Hopefully, if we could get like a friend with a car or something like that who's, you know, going upstate, I could actually do more of that shipping myself, because or schlepping, not really shipping, but schlepping, because even though the movers were amazing, they were awesome folks who like helped out here, I wouldn't want to trust them with my plants. So I'd rather, you know, kind of do that myself. Although when I had all my like planters and everything, I don't think they didn't break anything. Like I put a big F on the side of like the containers to make sure that like, hey, these things are fragile, don't break them. Yeah, so it's been decent and it's been good. I don't feel like too stressed in any kind of way. I think if like I had to move out, like, hey, move out tomorrow, I would be like, you know, what do I do? Especially after you've like I've lived here for over 16 years, if you could believe it. It's you acquire stuff, you have a ritual and a routine in your own space, and I still have that to an extent, but I'm just not here all the time. And some of you might be asking, well, what do you do with your birds? Because my birds are actually up at flock, but then I felt really bad because I didn't want to put the onus on the folks there having to take care of them. So I have actually my neighbor who comes down and takes care of them as well. So that's really lovely because she loves birds, and it's something that like I think we both get something out of. So that's that. But eventually I want to create like a little greenhouse aviary for some birds and more rescue birds and things along those lines. So I think that would be fun. So I start to, you start to say, okay, well, what are the possibilities and what are the things that you would like to do? And when I think about like that lifestyle and not really pitting indoor plants against outdoor plants or whatever, but thinking about like, hey, it's just on a continuum. Like I definitely see more of myself like going into the apothecary and making medicines and enjoying tea and spending a few days, like a month with like my family and having meals with friends and going out and gardening and designing, producing videos, editing, educating, all that kind of good stuff. Like that's what I would love to see, my life as. And I think that's what the goal is. That's what we're kind of doing now already. Kind of you're working towards that. It's not like you're like, oh, I've made it, I'm here. No, like life is a process, life is a journey. Like these are things that you build on every single day, and then you enjoy those days in the moments that you have. Because who knows, you don't know how much longer on this earth that you have. So enjoy every moment, create those experiences, create that environment that will support you, that keeps you healthy, that keeps you inspired, that keeps you creative, those types of things, those things that you deem important, to your life. So what else should I say? Oh, traveling. So, with the pandemic, it was like impossible to travel, and it just so happened that it coincided, even though we were looking 2 years prior to the pandemic for land that my friends and I could actually go in on together. It was kind of during the height of the pandemic when we actually found the land. So it was taking a long time. We were getting, saddened by the fact that we weren't really finding anything. We had our first love, like our first land that we fell in love with that we didn't get. It took us like a year to get over the fact that, we didn't have anything that we loved just as much. I have a whole video on that in Flock called The Ones That Got Away. But, we really, really, really are psyched and happy about what we have gotten and are working on together, which is really amazing. But travel kind of halted for not just me, but for everybody. And a lot of Plant Went On Me was going into other people's homes. It was going to different countries, going to different botanic gardens, seeing our houseplants in the wild. Like these are things that we were doing a lot. Now, the travel kind of subsided over those 2 years, which was fine because we had a lot of work. We accomplished a lot within those 2 years at Flock that I think that would have been impossible to do otherwise. However, now that the people have a better sense or I guess handle on the pandemic, and like travel is a bit more open to folks, we're still not finished with like renovations and landscaping and everything like that, but things kind of slow down in the winter because we're in zone 5, grow zone 5. For those of you who know what that is, it gets cold. It's like there's spring, summer, winter, and fall, and that winter is usually 3 or 4 long months. So I'm not really doing that much landscaping. So I do plan on traveling a bit more, maybe 4 to 5 times a year for Plant Went On Me. Really hard to tell because typically I like to be cost effective and efficient. This is, this is an expense to a certain degree. And if I'm traveling for other work in another part of the States or the world or whatever, then I will try to piggyback some Plant Went On Me's on top of that. So I don't necessarily always go out of my way to travel just to travel, especially now because I don't want to just like leave my partners there hanging. I have one partner there full time who's doing the bulk of the work, and I feel a little guilty about that. I don't even feel guilty about it, but like I want to be there. I want to be there working and helping. Like I legitimately want to be there working and helping. So I will be traveling a bit more. Like I said, probably I could maybe expect maybe 4 to 5 times a year for Plant One On Me, so we could do like more botanical tours and houseplant home tours and things along those lines, because that really enriches my life. I hope like that kind of videos like enrich your life. For those of us who maybe can't travel or don't have access to those places, I think that it's super educational and really enriching, and it allows us to see how other people like live and operate. And if we didn't have that, then we would just be in kind of like our narrow views of our own lives. So I think that to me is really helpful and lovely, and I definitely like doing it, but it's definitely a push and pull now because, as I just mentioned, I love being on the land. I love, having projects and doing projects. But winter is a time for kind of going more inward, doing a lot of things indoors, designing, contemplating, reading, writing, that kind of stuff. More so than, the warmer weather. So I could use a bit more of that time to, I guess, like travel around and do some more Plant One On Me videos. I really will relish a time in the near future, hopefully, where I could get my plants, maybe not all of my plants in one place, but in different homes at Flock. And then I'll be able to do more of that like indoors because it's been a little hard because I don't have all my plants in one place. So instead of doing those like care tips on like one genus and having all that genus on like the table, I really liked doing those, but I just am not set up for that right now. So yeah, you just have to be patient. I'm not like stressed out about it, like I said. I just know that that's some things that probably people are missing on the other side of the channel. I know a lot of people have voiced like, oh, I miss your home in Brooklyn, and I get that, but nobody is like static, and you shouldn't want anybody to be a static person. You would want people to grow and change and evolve and be their best selves and live their best life and all that other kind of stuff. So I wish that for all of you, and I hope that you wish that for me as well. And it's not like you have to go out there on a limb and explore and search for your best self. And I think that I never planned on being in New York City or in Brooklyn for the extent of my life. I mean, I'm totally a country girl at heart. I grew up in a town very similar to the town that I'm actually moving to, which is fun and interesting because I didn't know whether I would go back to a small town, but I have that spirit. I have that small town spirit. I love community. I love like a small community. And it's so funny because yeah, I have a community here in Brooklyn. I do, but we're always so busy, and there's a lot of folks who just like cancel on you last minute. It's like totally I feel like it's totally a Brooklyn thing. Not even a Brooklyn thing. I don't want to like put that onus on Brooklyn, but it's like people just do that, these days. But even though we live kind of far away from other folks up in upstate, like we still have neighbors coming over all the time and like hanging out. They just kind of randomly like show up, or like the UPS guy or whatever like shoots the shit with you for a while and that kind of stuff. And like people tell their stories. The fact that it was a container nursery and it was a container nursery for over 30 years, you get a lot of folks who had shopped there, who had worked there, and they have their own stories. So you feel like even though you never owned that place, all of those stories like come to the fore and connects you to that person, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. So I mean, I think that that's like really marvelous. And I just, you don't necessarily always have that in a city life, which is like where you have 8 million people around you, but it feels very isolated. Not that I felt like super isolated, and I also like my alone time, and I have like a good community here of like living here for 16 years. I feel like I'm kind of an old timer, mid timer maybe. There's some older timers here that have been here for like 40 years. But I feel like I'm literally a mid-timer. I'm not a newcomer to the area. So I have like the restaurants that I've always gone to and the places that I've always visited and the people that I always see on the corner of the streets being like, hey, hi. It's cool. Like I'm one of the people that feeds the birds on the street, and there's a Polish guy, Steve down the road, who also does the same thing. So we connect on that level in many different ways. And again, your environment creates the life that you live, and in many ways it shapes the life that you live. So expect more in 2023. I mean, we are moving into our 6th year of doing this channel. Flock, it's approaching the 2nd year anniversary. So it's very interesting having done this, because I really started with just like an iPhone here at the kitchen table, chatting with folks about things that I was growing and how I was taking care of plants and all that other kind of stuff. And I never expected it to catapult in the way that it has. So I thank you for that, because I'm glad that people have shared that interest. I didn't think this was anything I could have possibly done when I first got out of university, which is why I did this like circuitous path that I did, which was like focused on a lot of sustainability and environmental and social issues as it related to the fashion world, which the fashion world felt very foreign to me. I mean, I'm super grateful that I went through that tunnel, if you will, or that journey or that path, because it's really allowed me to explore a greater portion of life that I don't think I would have ever in my life done before. And it's allowed me to meet so many amazing folks, and maybe not so amazing folks, but it's allowed me to really crystallize, who I am and fortify my foundations in life, and really, I think, become a stronger person in the whole process. Yeah, so expect more on Plant One On Me. Like I said, I'll travel a bit more. Bear with me as I'm kind of bouncing between like 2 places, and if you feel like the content is maybe, not up to snuff or not exactly what you wanted, just, bear with me in the process, because like I said, like I'm a little bit like doing a 1 foot here, 1 foot here, and I'm split into 2 areas. And I think that does kind of affect my ability to be able to produce things and create longer videos and all that other kind of stuff. Oh, and I should also say, so Sander, who's been my camera person for like 2 years or whatever, he's one of the people that we ended up going in on the land with, and I have my friend Joey and Kia and all that kind of stuff. We used to have a friend named Sam. We still have a friend named Sam, but he was actually one of the folks who actually was going in on the land with us, but he had cold feet last minute. So there's a group of us who are up there, and typically, like Sander and I will always work together on our channels, but we work more together on Flock now because he's there, full time, and I'm not, and we're not really working on Plant One On Me as much any longer as we are on Flock. And I shoot Plant One On Me sometimes up at Flock, sometimes here, sometimes elsewhere. So unfortunately, you're not going to see me in front of the camera as much any longer, especially when we do tours and all that kind of stuff. And I've tried to rope in another one of my filmmaker friends who I've worked with before, but he lives in Georgia, and it's just so hard to coordinate that sometimes it's just much easier for me to be able to film it myself. So you'll hear like the voice behind the camera, and I definitely feel like I don't interact as well with the people that I'm filming as much, and so I feel like you lose something with that because I value the relationship and the interview process that I have with the person that I'm interacting with, usually in front of the camera. So I kind of miss that a little bit, but again, I just realize that this is part of the journey, and eventually we'll get to a place that feels a bit more balanced. But in the meantime, I hope you're enjoying the content still. If there's certain things that you'd really like to see, tell me in the comments below. I mean, I know some of you like are not commenters and you don't like really take the time to comment, or it's not something that you typically do, or you want to be more anonymous, or I totally appreciate that and get that. But if I'm asking you to maybe come out of your shell a little bit, and if there's certain things that you really enjoy or have enjoyed, I mean, I could see what people enjoy when I view the content, because I could see like which ones have the most viewership and all that other kind of stuff. But let me know what you care about, and if your interests are a bit more expansive like mine, and it's not just focused on indoor plants, and you like to know more about outdoor gardening, or especially if you're in like a zone 5 or 6, or like cold climates, for instance, and if you enjoy herbs, if you enjoy some of the craft and the lost arts, a little bit more of the slow living and homesteading and that kind of stuff, agroforestry, permaculture. I feel like I'm hitting all the buzzwords or whatever, but no, these are the things that we're genuinely interested in and we're genuinely practicing and we're genuinely learning about at Flock. Then I would encourage you to also view what we're doing there. And if you feel like we're not getting enough of Plant One On Me, then like I said, we're between 2 of those channels, we're producing between like 2 and 4 videos per week. That's a lot, especially because like a lot of them are long form. They feel a little bit more like documentary. And we do have a TikTok channel, so we are producing like some shorter videos. I mean, you'll be able to see that on Instagram Reels. We have a Flock Finger Lakes Instagram as well as TikTok. And I had a Summer Rain Oaks and Homestead Brooklyn TikTok, but it was like during that time when TikTok was just like forming in the United States, and I was signing on with my Instagram, and then they stopped the sign on with Instagram. So I just kind of basically can't access those accounts anymore. So I'm basically producing like the Homestead Brooklyn and the Flock Finger Lakes on one place on TikTok, and that's Flock Finger Lakes. I've also moved Flock Finger Lakes onto a Rumble channel as well. I'm going to consider doing that with like Plant One On Me as well, just to kind of spread it out a bit more. But you'll find us in all those like social media places, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. That's kind of like the main place, because I feel like that's where these longer form videos can exist. It's much more educational content in general, except for like these like update videos where it's just like, hey guys, checking in, this is where I'm at, where are you? Yeah, but that's it. I think that's a really good overview of where I am right now. And oh, I will say, stay tuned, because in spring, going to be having some more big news out there. No, I'm not pregnant. Like, I think the last time 2 years ago when I was like, big news, where like my friends went collectively in on land together, some people are like, oh, is she pregnant? No, I'm gonna just like bust that balloon right now. No, I have some new news coming up in spring that I think maybe you all will be interested in. So stay tuned for that, because I'll do another update then. But in the meantime, that's it. Thank you so much again for all your support for this channel. It's awesome, it's amazing. I love all of you, and it's just been really amazing that you have a lot of the same interests that I do, that this is stuff that really intrigues you, that interests you, that makes you feel like you're the fullest self as well. And if you haven't yet to this channel, I mean, I would really, really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and you hit that notifications bell so you know when the videos release. That really helps me. It helps me as a creator. It helps me to know that you are supportive of a channel like this, that you're supportive of content like this. And it does help as well on the other side. We, a percentage of the proceeds here actually goes to plant conservation. And I really want to thank Bee Willow, the plant store, for encouraging me to do that. And I encourage anybody who's out there who's a plant creator to really look into plant conservation and see what we could do to see being part of the solution as part of the problem with certain things. So, plant conservation is sorely underfunded. And even though like plants are some of the most endangered wildlife on this planet at the end of the day, and it's the basis for all the ecosystem that we live off of and all the other wildlife lives off of. So I think it's really important to look at what we can do. And as a creator, that makes some skrill, you know, from YouTube. I think that it's nice to be able to actually give a percentage of what you make back to the things that you love. And plants is something that I really love, and it's a great way to be able to give back. The same thing that we're doing at Flock Finger Lakes, we give a percentage of the proceeds and we reinvest it back into the community where we are, keeping that funds within the community, investing in community-based projects, all around, just like good juju all around. So anyway, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye guys.